Todd Herman said something like, I'm in a group with him and someone made a comment like, knowing what you want is the hardest thing as an entrepreneur. And he was like, no, admitting what you want is the hardest thing.
Yes, amen to that.
Because you think you're going to be judged by what other people might think. If you're like, I only want to have an $800,000 a year business. And like, how are they going to judge me if they think that I should want to have a $5 million a year business? You know?
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, grow up and freaking decide, we may get into that, but decide, right back there too, decide. Yeah. Okay, anyway. All right, so that's the first part is before we even talk about this idea of, all right, how do I productize my services and make this serve my life better? And how do I do recurring revenue? It's like, well, I don't know if you should. Go figure out what you want first, then come back and then we can talk about it. Okay, now, so the assumption is that with that exercise being done, I'm in an agency services business and I want some more flexibility, some more freedom, some more consistency, some more predictability, and some more scale to whatever degree that is, right? So when I started off, I was like, probably like most people, it was me, myself, and I was having some conversations with people and they would be like, all right, here's what I want to do. And in the sales conversation, I would come up with the answer and I would do this whole intricate, great plan. And then I would debate how much I should charge them because I didn't want to lose the deal, but I also didn't want to give up money. So it was almost like we're in a dating relationship where it's like I'm playing all the mental games, right? And then one day a buddy called me, pretty sure it was Travis Smith. He texted me and this was probably 7:30 or 8 at night. I remember because we're in our first house, 1,600 square feet, 5 kids. Okay. And I was just putting my kids and I'm walking down the hall and I get a text and he's like, hey, dude, do you have some time at all this week? I'm trying to put together this affiliate program. It was in Keep at the time. I got some questions. Can you just point me in the right direction? And I'm like, hey, give me 15 minutes. Let me get my kids down. Let's hop on a call. Because I try to be, this goes to the A, by the way, in Dollar Act. I try to be like, let's just get this done right now because I don't want it hanging over my head. That idea of I'm really good when I just work right here for me personally, you'll see that pop up over and over as we talk about this. So I'm like, give me 15 minutes. So we hop on a call. 20 minutes later, his whole affiliate program was set up. And he sent me a message that he's like, holy crap. It was like just watching you move. It was just efficient. This is what it taught me. What it taught me is I was doing 90% of the value in a sales conversation before anybody ever gave me money. And I could actually build most of the things that they said that they wanted in the amount of time that it took us to have a conversation, for me to come up with the proposal, to figure out what I wanted to charge them and go back and forth. So I was like, all right, hold on. We got to change something about this. So I lived in that world initially. And then I realized that's not for me. That is for the birds. I'm not interested in that anymore. 2 realizations that I was doing this kind of one-on-one solo contractor work. And the first one was, I do not want to be quoting custom projects for the rest of my life. It does not work for me. So something has to change. The second thing is I'm not built to just do something by myself. I need to be working with the team and I want to be building something. So those 2 realizations happened in this phase. It was called Infuse My Business because we were working with, it was Infusionsoft at the time. And so that business lasted like maybe a year or something. And then I was like, no, this is not going to work. And when we started 6th Division, remembering that, I was like, okay, at least enough sense. I was like, this has to work for us. I didn't totally learn the lesson though, because we started with the recurring revenue program that was like, hop on and we'll go custom do this thing. It was like the traditional, like, yeah, just send me whatever you want and we'll just kind of try and get it done and hopefully we keep you happy. It's not going to work. It's like, wait, not nearly enough.
That's exactly how I started. And I was like, this is a horrible idea.
It'll be great. And then it's like, I'm on a call. We kind of got it, but then they send something else, but I have no structure to handle it. So it's like, okay, hold on. We got to figure out a structure. We actually kind of stumbled into it. And so here's what we did. We were going to an event. It was Infusionsoft Keeps. At that point, it was their big event. We were a major sponsor. We had a chance to sell in an evening session. And so we went to the event with actually 3 offerings. I don't know if I've ever told you this story before. We went with 3 offerings because you got to have 3 offerings in your menu. One was this 2-day makeover where you come out to our office, we work with you, we get a whole bunch of stuff done in 2 days. The second one was a monthly recurring subscription that was what we had tried before and it sucked. And then the last one was a $100 a month membership because we need to have something that could scale. Keep in mind, we're like 6 months old at the time. Okay. So no real infrastructure, no real learnings, no real whatever. So we go to the event. Fast forward real quick. Coming out of the event, we sold a whole bunch of makeovers. We sold 1 monthly thing that lasted about 1 month and we sold no monthly recurring membership programs. Thank heavens. So when we were going there, we sold this 2-day makeover and there's a whole story. Like I woke up on the day we were supposed to sell from stage. My bank accounts, personal business were overdrawn. It was phenomenal, really like confidence boosting. We got up on stage. We sold a ton of them. Presentation went really well. I mean, we sold a ton. It was like, oh crap, now we got to schedule these and now we have to go deliver. And in that moment, it was one of those like, I don't know if you ever had this in your life where it's like, you have for a split second, you can see the future that's about to come. And you're like, oh, not that one. We are going to make a decision right now. That's like, we are not going down that path. So I had this brief moment of like, nope. We are not about to do 8,000 different emails back and forth to try to schedule. We have to control how this thing is going to work. How do we make sure that this doesn't just explode on us? Because we sold a ton, which was really exciting. And then when you sell a ton, it's really exciting on the sales side, but on the delivery side, it's like, oh, this could be a friggin' problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know what I'm talking like, great. I got a ton of, oh crap. I got a ton of clients. So like, all right, we cannot follow any of the traditional paths. So we ended up setting up like a scheduling tool so people could just go schedule themselves. That was one thing. I was like, got to make this more systematic. So we set that up. And then the process for us delivering, we sort of stumbled into it. And then I was like, oh, that is what we need to do. And it's become a thing that we've taught people because it helped me uncover a principle, which is one, structure lets you get more done in less time. This is a really important principle. Structure lets you get more done in less time. And when people try to buck the structure, you basically tighten down. You have to break the horse. Okay. In this case, the horse is your client. I'm not saying clients are all horses. You get the idea. Okay. You have to establish a system, number one. And then when you have a system, preparation is the ultimate magnifier of experience and of value being created. So let me just break those down. So I'm going to tell some lessons that happened as we evolved the makeover over time. So it's not just this initial set, but here's ultimately what we settled into. Somebody signed up for makeover. We would do a pre-makeover kickoff call. It's like 60 minutes long. So the very first iteration, when we do that call, get on the same page. So we had a pretty good idea of what they want to do when they came out. When they came out initially, we had 5 or 6 businesses that came out together, but they all had somebody from our team that they were working with. So we would meet together. If I'm being totally honest, it was because I didn't trust anybody else. No, I got to be in there so I can establish expectations. We would go separate for like 3 hours and everybody would go do their consulting work to come up with a plan of what they were going to build. And then at lunchtime, we would do a little mastermind. That's what I called it. I'm really good with words, by the way. Call it a mastermind. Everybody could come back and we could share what we were about to go work on. That was code for, again, I don't trust you guys, so you need to come back so that I can see what you're about to go do with the clients and I can make sure we're on the right track and maybe do some course correction. I may have created some frustration with some of my team members from time to time. I'm like, no, not that path. Do a pretty good job of like, that's going to be a problem with that particular client. Maybe we should consider this. And then we spend the next day and a half implementing. When we first started, we were not good at having people leave where everything was done. So we had this big overlap that would happen. Like client 1 would come in for 2 days and then they would trail on for 2 to 3 weeks. Client 2 would come in and they would trail on for they'd come in the next week. But now you got like 3, 4, 5, they all start to stack up. You got these ongoing clients that was supposed to be done before. So that was like the very first iteration. The final iteration, if we take these principles of system and structure, lets you get way more done. And then preparation is the ultimate magnifier of experience and value getting done. This is the current iteration, I guess. This is where it sort of ended up. Somebody signs up. When they sign up, we came up with a system of how we implement our own terminology, our own methodology, our own set of worksheets. Like, look, this is what we're going to walk through. Quick anecdotal story. That was inspired by a guy that helped us create our logos. We dramatically overpaid, only based on where our business was. We paid a lot of money to go to a guy that did logo work for way bigger people, but I love it because we've never changed either one of our logos and they're phenomenal. We went out to his house and we were there for a whole day and we sat there and this is what he did. It was beautiful. He pulled up a Google Doc. I think it was a Word doc at the time. It was way back in the day, but he pulled up a doc and all we did was we just walked through the document and he's like, all right, I got this question. Boom. And he just took notes. I got this question. Boom. Just took notes. And I left and I was like, that was freaking dope. He didn't have to like be some wizard. He's like, no, we're just walking through the process. I know what work we're doing. We're doing brand work. The questions we ask are always the same. And if there's a section that needs to be skipped, we just skip it. So I remember coming back being like, if we could have that, then I didn't have to do kickoff call and the mastermind in the middle and like oversee. If we could have that where everybody followed the same system, couple of things happen. 1, it's a system. We'll get way more done. 2, we can interchange people in our business. The goal that I wanted to get to is I could start with the client, work for 2 hours, have somebody else come in, review the documentation. They could pick up right where I left off, work for 2 hours. Somebody else could come in all the way throughout the course of 2 days and never lose a beat. We created that system for ourselves. That's the summary. And now what happens is you sign up, we send you into this training and we tell people on the sales call, yo, the first step is you got about 3 hours worth of video to go through. So deal with it. Like that's how we do the work is we're going to send you through the training. And here's why. Number 1, your biggest challenge is you don't know how to think about the problem. I'm going to give you a better way to think about the problem. Number 2, you will get very familiar with our terminology and how we talk about it. So that, number 3, when we get on a call and start to talk about your business, we are light years ahead of every other person that you would normally talk with. We are aligned and on the same page about how to think about the problem and how to talk about the problem. We're using the same language. Now imagine all of you sitting there in your agency thinking, oh man, I get on a call with clients and I spend the first hour of the first call that's supposed to be this deep dive strategy session. And I'm just trying to get you to understand what I mean when I say term X, right? Or term Y. So they sign up, they go through the training. After they're done with the training, we do a kickoff call. Now we're on the same page. Now we go through a strategy session. We dial everything in. Then they would show up for 2 days. By the time they show up for 2 days, we pretty much already know what they're trying to build. And because we've done this enough, we do a whole bunch of custom stuff. But custom stuff is really just 80% the exact same crap as everybody else with like 20% over the top that makes it custom. Custom cabinets. What are custom cabinets? The same freaking box that sits in the behind every cabinet, except the outside's different. And maybe I'm technically slightly off on that, but the principle doesn't change, right? You talk about all the different kinds of cars and most of the cars using the exact same underlying, I don't even know what the term is, chassis or whatever. It's like the same frame. Yeah. And then everything else on the outside is slightly different. So that was the next thing. He's like, well, we'll just pre-build the 80% of the tools. I'll get on a call with you. And 2 days before, when we first started, what it took us 2 days to get done, we literally get done in 2 hours. It's like, we're on the same page. I know what you want. I've got 80% of it done. We want to tweak this, this, and this. Boom, tweak, tweak, tweak. Okay, you walk out and it's like, all right, here's the stuff that we've already built. Here's the skeleton we've already built. Let's just go modify it, review it, tweak it, finalize, customize it. Boom, they're 4 hours in when we're normally doing a mastermind session before lunch, trying to figure out what we're going to do before we actually have done anything in the app. It's like, oh, it's already done. What's the next thing you want to do? So they come out, we do the work, and we got really good with our prep that when they come out, it's like, it's 2 days and you're out. When we're done with the 2 days, there's nothing else for us to do. So we even got to the point where we would tell them, hey, at 1 o'clock on the second day, we're done building. We're into documentation and implementation. So you can take this and you can be done and on your way. So we can be ready for the next client and not have this tail. So that first piece was really about, you use the term productize. The only reason why I might use the word systematize rather than productize, we mean the same thing, right? The point is that there's a system and there's a structure that's like, no, you're going to come in. We're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, it's done and it's off the shelf, right? It's done.
Like a factory. Yeah.
It's like a factory. It's just like check, check, check. And factories create custom stuff. So this is not about, it's just an assembly line. I don't do anything custom. No, everything we do is custom. It's not like I'm just, hey, come and buy this thing and then I'll just, there's no customization to it. No, we don't do anything that's not custom. Everything is 100% custom, but we can get done. And if I showed you like our initial like sizzle reel testimonial video, we had people coming in and this was 100% true. Like we got more done in 2 days than I would get done in 2 years on my own. And it's true because we have a system and because we prepare our clients for every single step in the process. And anytime we were going through and we find a point where it's like, oh, it didn't work out here. It's like, well, if it didn't work out at a particular step, we didn't do something before to prepare them for that. If there was any friction later on in the delivery of anything, it was like, well, we didn't do our job up here. So let's go change the end of our sales conversation. Let's go change that video that preps them so it reminds them, hey, don't forget that we had a guy show up to an implementation thing. He didn't bring a laptop or a computer or an iPad or anything. He just showed up. I'm like, oh, okay. We got to go back and be like, hey, I know that this sounds weird, but you're going to want to bring something to work with here. So the first phase, when you're in the middle of like this whole agency thing and everything's all over the place, is what I would do is I would look at what's your process. This is what led to our creation. It didn't end up being a single document, but how can I create a single Google Doc that I would pull up? And literally, I would not leave it for the entire time we're doing consulting and strategy. I'd just run right through it. That is the consulting and strategy. That is the structure. And then within that, you get to apply your expertise to come up with better answers. But your expertise is not on the fly. I come up with the question to ask, or like I have the thing I need to solve. Like that's already established. I don't care if you're building websites. I don't care if you're doing marketing collateral or messaging or branding. You're asking the same questions every single time. You're really good at diving in deeper, but that initial outline of questions, that should be set somewhere, just done. I don't have to remember that. Anybody could step in and ask those. The better consultants are the ones that then know like, oh, you said that. Hold on. We need to go deeper on that. And having that initial underlying infrastructure makes it easier for you to do that.
Love it. So systemized versus productized, I think that was a good look. If you look at it from like an iterative process, yes, it is. You've picked what the outcome is. Hey, this is what we're getting done in these 2 days. Now let's refine that process so it's systematic. Okay, cool. Now it's so systematic that like it has specific deliverables and starting to look like a product.